Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to teach you how to analyze your Facebook ad results. So first we're going to go over the overall strategy, next the ideal metrics and what you need to look for, next how to troubleshoot your funnel, and then 3 scenarios that you're going to face. So let's begin. So first, once you start running your Facebook ads, you need to leave them for between 4 to 7 days to let them optimize. So in the beginning when you launch your ads, and I remember doing this, I'd sit there refreshing my stats all day. And that's not the right way to do it. What you want to do is check your stats maybe 2 to 3 times per day and leave the ads to run for between 4 to 7 days to really understand what's happening with the data. And this is because Facebook takes time to learn who your ideal customer is. You know, the algorithm has to have some spend and some time to really figure out who to target. So next, you want to know your break-even cost per purchase and ROAS. And this is how much you can spend on acquiring a new customer without losing money. There's plenty of online calculators showing you how to do this, but in basic terms, you do your revenue minus your cost of goods and shipping to get your break-even cost per purchase. So let's say you buy a product for $10 and you sell it for $30. That leaves you with a $20 profit margin. If you spend more than $20 to acquire a customer, you're losing money. And then you can use a ROAS calculator online to figure out the break-even ROAS. I tend to use the cost per purchase more than a ROAS, but that's also a good metric to look out for. Next, the key metrics you need to analyze when you're running your Facebook ads are the link cost per click, the link click-through rate, and the cost per purchase and ROAS overall. Now, I wrote overall here in brackets because Facebook has delayed reporting nowadays, which means sometimes if you get a sale in Shopify, it might take 2 to 3 days to show in your Facebook ads dashboard. So look at this metric overall. Next, I'm going to show you how to set up your columns on the Facebook ads dashboard. So here we are in the ads manager. What you want to do is come here to columns and click customize columns. And you can see here, I've already got everything set up, but all you have to do is type in, each of these and, it'll come up for you. The first is obviously going to be the campaign name. This is, the name of the campaign. Next will be delivery. This just tells you if your ad set or your ad is active, in review, or scheduled. Next, you have the budget, which is how much you're spending every single day. Then you have purchases, which is how many purchases you've had. Next, you have reach, which is how many people have seen your ads at least once. So reach is different to impressions, right? The reach is how many unique people have seen your ad, whereas impressions is how many times your ad has been seen overall. You could have a reach of 1 and have 2 impressions, which means 1 unique person has seen your ad 2 times. Then you have your cost per purchase, which is obviously how much you spend to acquire a new customer. And then you have amount spent, which is your budget spent so far in a day. And then you have purchases conversion value, which is the value of all the purchases you've had. So if you've had 2 sales at $20 each, the purchases conversion value would be $40. And then you have your schedule, which is when your ad is running. After that, you have your frequency, which is how many times your ads have been seen by each individual person. Next, you have the quality ranking, which, Facebook has 3 metrics that determine the quality of your ad, which is the quality ranking, the engagement rate ranking, and a conversion rate ranking. So the quality ranking is talking about the ad's perceived quality. And let's say somebody clicks on the ad, how long they stay on your website. That helps your quality ranking. Then you have the engagement rate ranking, which is how engaging your ad is, the likes, the shares, the comments, how long people view the ad. So that's the engagement rate ranking. And then the conversion rate ranking. So this is how many people click through to your website and purchase. This is also a very important metric. So these 3 metrics, quality ranking, engagement rate ranking, and conversion rate ranking, help boost your ads. If you have good rankings here, your ad should be cheaper. After that, you have the CPM, which is the cost per 1,000 impressions, how much it costs for you to reach 1,000 views on Facebook for your particular ad. Now, the CPM is different for every niche, for every country. So in the US, it might cost you $20 to show your ad to 1,000 people, but in the UK, it might cost you $10, right? And the CPM is also different according to, the campaign type you're running. A purchases campaign will always have a higher CPM than a traffic campaign, right? So I like having this metric here. It just helps to tell me how expensive the traffic that I'm targeting is. Next, you have the CTR, the link click-through rate. And this is how many people see your ad and click through to your website. It's a super important metric, and we're going to go into more detail about that in the keynote. After that, we have the CPC, which is the cost per link clicked. Make sure you're doing the link CPC as well as the link CTR, because that's, it tells you how many people click through to your website rather than on the ad. After that, you have add to cart, which is how many people add to cart and the cost per add to cart. And then you have initiate checkout, which is how many people initiate checkout and how much it costs to get each person to initiate checkout. So after you've, put all the columns down, just come down here, save as preset. I call it data, and just hit apply. And yeah, you're done. So now, in your dashboard, you'll have all your metrics here, and you can come down here and just set it as default. So yeah, that's how you set up your columns on Facebook ads. So next, here are the ideal metrics that you need to analyze on your ads. So first is the link cost per click. And this is how much it costs for somebody to click onto your website after seeing your ad. Now this metric measures how good your ad is at generating interest. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about the AIDA formula, which is attention, interest, desire, action. So that means your ad in the beginning has to generate attention and interest. So the link cost per click helps you understand how much interest and attention that you've got on your ad. And ideally, you want a link cost per click of under $1. The reason for this is you have to really do the math. Let's say you have a 3% conversion rate, which if you follow the store setup video, that's very achievable. I've had conversion rates of 5, 6, 7%. So a 3% conversion rate is very achievable. This means that 1 out of every 33 people that click through to your website after seeing your ad will purchase. Now, if each click costs $1, this means that your cost per purchase will be $33 because 1 out of every 33 people will purchase. Now, can you afford that? Can you afford to spend $1 cost per click and get a $30 cost per purchase and still be profitable? Can you afford that, right? So this is why your margins are so important. And this is why in the previous video, I talk about how you need to have a 3 to 5x markup on your product. And this is because the Facebook ad costs and a cost per click tends to be pretty high. So as a result, you need the margins. So for a cost per click, you want something ideally under $1. You could make a cost per click of between $1 to $2 work, depending on your conversion rate. So in an expensive niche like beauty and skincare, you might get CPMs of, $50, $60. And in that case, you'd get a high link cost per click. However, if your conversion rate on a beauty offer is 5%, 6%, then the maths kind of makes sense. So yeah, the first metric that matters is your link cost per click. Next is the link CTR. And this is what percentage of people click through onto your website after viewing your ad. And this metric is directly correlated to your link CPC. If your link CTR is higher, your link CPC will be lower. And ideally on cold traffic, you want a link CTR of between 1 to 3%. And just to reiterate, this is the link CTR, not the CTR all, which just shows how many people click your ad. But we want to see how many people click through to your website. So once again, link CTR, you want it to be between 1 to 3%. Usually with photo ads, they tend to be a bit lower. And with video ads, they tend to be a lot higher. Next, the cost per purchase. And this is how much it costs to acquire a new customer. Ideally, you should be profitable or at worst, breaking even. If you're breaking even, you're in a good position. In the next slide, I'm going to go over why that is. But your cost per purchase after running ads for between 4 to 7 days should either be profitable or breaking even. And a final metric you should look at is the ROAS, which is the return on ad spend. And this means, if you spend $1 on ads and you make back $2 in revenue, you get a 2 ROAS. So ROAS is also a very important metric. However, I prefer to use the cost per purchase because one customer can come and place a very big order, which boosts up your ROAS artificially, whereas it's just one unique customer. So I like using the cost per purchase more, but a ROAS is also a good metric to have. Next, funnel troubleshooting. So it's the most important thing with Facebook ads is learning how to read your data accurately. The answer to your question is always in the number. Based on this guide, you should always know what to do next. Any question you have, your answer will be in your Facebook ads data. Now, the great thing about running ads and everything is you get very quick feedback loops. So let's say you started a new brand and you were selling you're selling a t-shirt, for example, right? In the normal world, you'd have to design the t-shirt, and to sell the t-shirt, you might have to go to a trade show, you might have to throw an event, you might have to go to the club, you might have to, go on the streets, and it takes a lot of time to get in front of people to figure out if people want to buy your product or not. Now, depending on your hustle, this could take a month, this could take 2 months, which is, it violates the rule 1 of Hustlers University, which is speed, right? So with Facebook ads and any kind of ad platform, you can get instant feedback from the market on how your products perform. So this is the value of running ads once again. If you are just doing, an Instagram page where you just post content, or a TikTok page, it might take you months before people even discover your products, right? So with ads, you always know what people think of your products. So once again, you have to leave your ads for 4 days before making judgments. Facebook needs time to learn who your ideal customer is. And the only exception here is, let's say you've started running ads and the results are absolutely terrible, right? We have the ideal metrics back here, which is a link CPC of under $1, a link CTR of 1 to 3%, and a break-even cost per purchase, or profitable cost per purchase. If on day 1, your metrics are absolutely terrible and completely off, so let's say you get a cost per click of $3, or you get, a CTR of 0.5%, if your ads are completely terrible, just turn it off. There's no point wasting money. You really need to start over in that situation. But most people, when you run ads, it shouldn't be, your results shouldn't be terrible, right? If you get ads created, just like I teach you in the Facebook ads video previously, you should get some good ads done. And if your product is half decent, you should see good stats. And even if a product doesn't work, you should break even, right? So you're not even losing that much money anyway. And then the only metric that matters is the cost per purchase and ROAS. Link CPC, link CTR, they're only indicators, right? You could have incredible metrics for your CPC and CTR, but if the cost per purchase doesn't back out, it means nothing, right? Inversely, you can have, average cost per click, average CTR, but if your cost per purchase is good, that campaign is good. So at the end of the day, the only metric that matters is your cost per purchase, but the link CPC and link CTR are only indicators that can help you, understand that metric. Next, there are 3 scenarios that you're going to face. Based on this, you should always know what your next moves are, so you continue to stay consistent. So if you understand these next 3 scenarios, you'll always know what to do. Based on the 3 scenarios that I'm going to show you now, you should always know what to do next. So let's begin. So first, scenario 1, profitability, right? So you've run your ads for 4 days and your ads are profitable. Your cost per purchase, let's say your profit is $20 and your cost per purchase is 10, that means you're profitable and everything's going great, right? The market likes your product and you really have the potential now to scale the product. So if the ROAS is higher than 2, you can start scaling your ad sets in order to bring more sales in. If your profit margin is $20 and your cost per purchase is like $18, there's only like $2 of profit there. It can be very hard to scale that, because once you spend more on ads, your costs usually tend to increase. So let's say you're getting a $10 cost per purchase at $100 per day, but if you're spending $1,000 per day, you might be spending, $16 cost per purchase. However, because you're getting a lot more sales, that profit will make up for it. If your ROAS is higher than 2, if your cost per purchase is a lot lower than your profit margin, you can scale that ad set. And there are 2 ways to do this. Number 1, you increase the budget on the ad set level, or number 2, you can duplicate it. Both of these options work, but it really depends on your account. So for some people's accounts, if they increase their budget on the ad set, they can continue scaling very well. For other people, that doesn't work and they need to duplicate the ad set. And the reason for this is when you increase your budget on an ad set, it resets the learning. Facebook has to relearn who to target. So how to increase budget on an ad set? If an ad set is working, you can increase your budget by up to 50% per day. So do this at 12 a.m. so your budget can spend throughout the whole day. And once you increase the budget, leave the ads to run for 3 to 4 days to really let it optimize again. Like I mentioned, the ads have to relearn. They have to learn who to target again. And yeah, you have to give it some time. Next, duplicating an ad set. This is a faster way to scale. When you duplicate an ad set, you create a completely new clone of that ad set. When you increase the budget on an existing ad set, you know, it has to relearn everything, so it might stop working. Whereas when you duplicate, you get a completely new pocket of the audience, and you can scale your budget a lot faster. You know, you don't have to increase it by 50%. You can increase it by 100%, 200%. You know, you can go from $10 per day to spending $20 per day, right? And I'd recommend maximum doubling the budget. So I wouldn't go from like $10 per day to $100 per day. That tends to be too quick sometimes. So I'd do $10 per day. I'd go to 20 next. And then you'd leave the ad set for 3 to 4 days to optimize. If your results are good, then you duplicate it again to 50, to 100, to 200, and just keep going that way. So that's how you duplicate your ad set and increase your budget. There's plenty of ways to scale. You know, if you're in this stage, you know, go into the HU e-commerce chat and, you know, post your results so far, and we can help you with that as well. Next, scenario 2, which is breaking even. So most people will be in this situation when they first run their ads. If your ads are breaking even or you're slightly profitable, you're in a great position. Now, I mentioned earlier about being slightly profitable. If you're very close to breaking even, but you're profitable, so let's say your profit margin is $20 and your cost per purchase is $18, you're profitable, but you're very close to breaking even. And this means the market wants your product, but your messaging needs to be a bit clearer. Your ads can be a little bit better. And you don't really want to scale until you have something which is more profitable. And as I mentioned before, your ROAS will decrease as you scale. When you spend more on ads, it's natural, right? In the beginning, your Facebook ads will reach very targeted people, which is why your costs will be very, very low. However, as you scale out, you have to reach people who are less likely to purchase, which is why your ROAS will decrease. If you're breaking even or slightly profitable, you need to test new creatives and new audiences. The most important thing is to test new creatives. To test your creatives, you can test a new thumbnail. You can test so this is for a video ad. So in a video ad, you can test a new thumbnail, or you can test a different hook, a different opening scene, a different variation. And sometimes just by changing the thumbnail or the opening scene, your ROAS can completely change, right? Just think about it. You have 1,000 impressions. From 1,000 impressions, you know, if the first 3 seconds of a video is pretty bad, you might get 500 people viewing the video for the first 3 seconds. But if your 3-second opening is very good, you might get 800 people viewing it, right? And that's almost 50% more people have seen your video, have gone through the first 3 seconds, which means your cost per click can go down. If you're breaking even, test new creatives, test a new thumbnail, a new opening scene. If you're doing photo ads, test a new variation of that. And the key here is to test an iteration, because your products or your ads are breaking even, right? They're working, but they need to be clearer. So don't go ahead and completely change everything. Take what's working already and just optimize it to make it better. Next, you can test new audiences. Now, the best way to do this is when you've run your ads for 4 to 7 days, each interest will perform differently. So each ad set will have a different interest. So you might get one interest that has 5 sales and one interest that has 1 sale, right? What you want to do is turn off the ad set with 1 sale and duplicate the interest ad set with 5 sales and click the suggestions tab, so you can see interests that are very similar to that interest. And that means you should see better performance. If you're duplicating a winning ad set and taking a similar interest, your performance should be good on that interest. However, like I mentioned earlier, nowadays your creative testing matters so much more than audience testing. So your main focus should be on new creatives. Now, once you've done this, you also want to improve your website to increase the conversion rate. You know, if you have a 2% conversion rate, this means 1 from every 50 people are buying your product. Well, if you improve your website and you increase your conversion rate to 3%, this means 1 in 33 people are going to buy your products. And this means 17 clicks it would take 17 more clicks previously to get a sale. Now you don't need to spend an extra 17 clicks to get sales, right? So if you improve the conversion rate, that should bring down your cost per purchase. Now, the best way to do this is to have higher quality product photos, have high quality product reviews, you know, a fast site speed, better product descriptions. Just go into your website, go through it on your phone, and just see how you can improve it, right? And if you need extra feedback on this, go into the HU reviews chat, post your website up, and we'll help you improve your website from there. Next, losing money. So if after 4 days your ads are losing money, you might need to start over with a new product, and don't get emotionally attached. Just start over with a new product, right? Now, if you're close to breaking even, within 20%, you can test new ad creatives and audiences. right? Refer to scenario 2. So let's say you spent $100 in ads and you've made back $120 in revenue. However, your product cost was $40. So your total loss was $20. However, you're very close to profitable, right? If you make a few changes to your ad creative, to your targeting, to your website, that can instantly flip to being profitable. So if you're very close to making money or breaking even, test new creatives, test new audiences. However, if you're just completely far off, if you spent $100 on ads and you've made back $50 in sales, and so you've lost $50 on the initial ads and then your product cost as well, right? If you're just very far away from making money, move on with a new product. Don't get emotionally attached. That's one issue I've seen with a lot of people. In my 4 years of e-commerce, a lot of people get very attached to certain products that they've got 2-3 sales and it's not really working for them, but they're emotionally attached to the product because they've made sales, and they stick to that product for a long time. They might keep running it for a month, 2 months, 3 months. It doesn't work. They spend a lot of money on ads. They lose money. They make new creatives. It doesn't work. And all this time they get burnt out, all because they were attached to a product that was never going to work, right? So if your results are very far from successful, if you're not even close to breaking even, just move on. Test a new product. This is a numbers game. The faster you test without emotion, the better. Your mentality should be, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to continue testing new products until I find something that works. Let's say it's written for you that you're going to have to test 10 products before you find a winner. Well, if you get emotionally stuck on product number 6 and you get burnt out and you believe this isn't working anymore and you're only on product 6, you might want to quit, you might want to give up. Whereas if you continue to test, when you got to product 10, which was going to be a super winner for you, you'd be successful, right? So don't get attached to your product and brand concepts too much. And the way I teach you to find products and get new ads made, it doesn't take very long. You can test a new product every 1 to 2 weeks. Find a new product, import it onto Shopify, get a video ad made, run ads. Keep repeating that process until you finally find something that works. So just to reiterate, keep testing. This is a numbers game. Once you've run your Facebook ads, you'll know what to do next. If you need any help with this process, post it in the e-commerce chat and I'll help you with that directly.